Hello, today you learn what is stored procedure and function in DBMS. Before going to a stored procedure and function, let us understand what are the disadvantages of SQL. SQL does not have any procedural capabilities like checking, looping. SQL statements are passed to the evaluation engine one at a time. Means you can execute SQL statements one at a time. While processing an SQL statement, if an error occurs, system displays its own error message. It is not a customized error message. Then, to overcome the disadvantages of SQL, the other form of SQL is a procedural language, structured query language, that is PLSQL. It is a combination of SQL along with the procedural features of the programming language. It includes conditions, loops like if, for loop, while loop, just like a programming language. It allows declaration of constants and variables. It allows declaration of procedures and functions, also the triggers. One can create a PLSQL unit such as procedure, functions, packages, triggers, which are stored in the database for reuse by application. Stored procedure is a group of SQL statements which are executed repeatedly. It allows for a variable declaration, flow control, other programming techniques. Parameters are important part in the stored procedures and functions. This makes the procedure more flexible and useful. Now let us see what is the syntax of the procedure. First, this is the syntax of MySQL. So you have to first change the delimiter from semicolon to any other delimiter like // Then you have to write down create procedure and the procedure name. Then you have to pass the parameters like as in parameter, out parameter or in out parameter. Then you have to write down the statements that you want to execute in the procedure. End the delimiter. Let us take an example. If you want to write a procedure which should display total number of customers. Write a procedure which should display total number of customers in the customer table. So here we assume that you have already a customer table which contains a set of records. Now through a procedure we are counting the number of customers in the customer table. So as you know the syntax of writing a procedure. So first change the delimiter, then create procedure and the procedure name. So here the procedure name is P1. Then these are the parameters which are passing to the procedure. So you want the output as a total number of customers. So out C1 and the type of parameter, that is integer. So here you are declaring the procedure P1 with the output parameter as a C1. Then you have to begin the procedure. Select count star into C1 from customer. So count is an aggregate function which returns the number of customer from the customer table. This is a table, customer table. And this count is not displaying on the screen. In the simple SQL, if you write this query, it gives you the count of the customer. But here the count is copied into procedural parameter, that is C1. Then here you are ending the procedure. So through this create procedure, you have created the procedure. Now after creating a procedure, you have to call the procedure. So you have to explicitly call the procedure, otherwise this procedure will never execute. It is just stored it into the DBMS. Using this call, you can call the procedure. So if I want to call the procedure, I have to write call and then the procedure name. And depending upon the parameters you have passed in the procedure, you have to specify it in the call. So here there is one output parameter, that is C1. So you have to pass the parameters using the symbols @C1. So you are passing the parameter to the procedure. Then you want, when you write this statement, this procedure is get called, this SQL statement is executed, and the count is get stored into the C1 parameter. So here the output, that is the count, is in the variable C1. Now using select C1, you are displaying the count to the on the screen or to the user. Similarly, you can write a function. There is a main difference between stored procedure and function is that stored procedure, it does not return any value, but the stored function, it always return a single value. In procedure, there is a in, out and in out parameter, whereas in function, there is only in parameter and a return value. So the syntax for writing a function is similar to your procedure, like create function name. You have to specify the input parameter. Okay, all are input parameters. Then you have to return the value from the function. So you have to mention the return with data type. Then you have to write down deterministic. Deterministic means whether this, after executing the function many times, it always return a same value. So that is called as a deterministic. So this function is always return a same value if it is executed many times with the same parameter. Then you have to write down the begin and end. Within the begin and end, you have to write down a set of statements, or your business logic is in the mentioned in the statement. Let us take again one example, same example. Assume that you have a customer relation with customer ID as a primary key, name which is not null, credit limit of the customer is stored in the attribute credit limit. Now the question is, write a stored function that returns levels of a customer based on a credit limit. So you have to identify the level of customer based on the credit limit. So you have to decide a logic, okay, and accordingly you have to return the level of the customer. So how to write? You start with the delimiter in MySQL. So delimiter and change the delimiter. Create a function with function name customer level is the name of my function. Then you have to pass one input parameter, that is P credit limit is my input parameter. Its data type is double. Then my function returns the level of customer. So it's a varchar. Its data type is varchar. So it's a character type. So it returns the varchar 10. Okay. So this is your return data type. Then deterministic, my function is deterministic. Then within begin and end, there is one return statement which is not in the stored procedure. Here there is a return the level of the customer. So between this begin and end, you have to write down return the level of the customer. Between this begin and end, you have to write down the logic, business logic. Like I declare one procedural variable, that is level. This is my local variable to the to this function customer level. So I declare the variable level of type varchar. Then I now write down the logic. Okay. So if P credit limit is greater than 50,000, then I set this level as platinum. Means if the customer credit limit is greater than 50,000, then that customer is called as a platinum level customer. Else if P credit limit is less than equal to 50,000, means the credit limit is 50,000 and it less than 50,000, and the P credit limit is greater than or equal to 10,000, means if the credit limit is from 10,000 to 50,000, if the credit limit is between 10,000 and 50,000, then you have to set the level as gold. Else if P credit limit, this is a variable, P credit limit is my parameter to the customer level. If this is less than 10,000, then the level is silver. So this is the logic which we write between the begin and end. And obviously I want to return a level of the customer. So here I mention it is return the level. Now here using this create function, I have just created a function in DBMS. Now this function is called explicitly by writing a call to a function. So how to call? So you have to write down a call function like select. I have write this call function in a SQL query. Like select, I want to display the name of the customer and the level of the customer based on the credit limit. This is the attribute of the customer table. So I have passed this attribute to the function cust level. So select name cust level, and I have passed here the credit limit is the attribute of the customer table. Now this function is called, and based on the credit limit it will display the levels of the customer from customer table, and it is sorted by the name in ascending order. So if it is not mentioned the order, it's by default it is in ascending order. So it display you the name of customer and the level of the customer sorted by name in ascending order from customer table. So in this video what you learn is what is disadvantages of SQL, what are the advantages of PLSQL. Then we are started with the stored procedure and functions, the difference between stored procedure and function. Stored procedure is used, or it contains the in parameter, out parameters, in out parameter, and it doesn't return any value, whereas in the function it has only in parameters and it always return a single value. So thank you.